Tawanda Murphy was the kind of man people easily overlooked. He lived in a small room above a mechanic shop in Cosimo Heights, a loud and colorful city where everyone seemed to chase fast money. But Tawanda moved differently. Every morning, he walked to the scrapyard with a calm smile, searching through old metal pieces that others had thrown away. Where people saw rust, he saw shapes waiting to come alive. He cut, hammered, and welded each piece with care, slowly building sculptures that carried stories. He didn't earn much, but he loved his work. His hands were always dirty, but his heart was always peaceful. He believed that real success took time, and he was never in a rush. His sister Rufaro was the complete opposite. She loved bright clothes, shiny jewelry, and loud success. To her, life was a race, and winning meant being richer than everyone around her. She worked hard, but her dreams were huge and impatient. Whenever she saw Tawanda carrying scrap metal, or selling a sculpture for a small price, she shook her head and laughed sharply. She often told him he was wasting his life. "You'll die broke. Art can't feed you," she would say, loud enough for neighbors to hear. She thought she was motivating him, but her words cut deep. Tawanda never argued. He respected her, even when she mocked him. He simply listened, lowered his eyes, and returned to his workshop. But inside, the comments stung. He wondered why kindness made him look weak and why passion made him seem foolish. Still, he never stopped creating. Metal art was more than a job to him. It was the one place where he felt truly free. Rufaro didn't understand that. She believed big money came from big risks, so she opened a fashion stall in a busy market. She announced it proudly to the family, claiming she would rise faster than anyone else. But things didn't go the way she imagined. She made decisions too quickly, spent more than she earned, and trusted the wrong people. When the stall failed, she felt embarrassed and angry. Instead of taking responsibility, she found a way to blame Tawanda again. She said if he had thought big like successful people, he could have helped her grow. Her words were harsh, especially when said in front of relatives. Yet Tawanda stayed silent, even though inside his chest, the pain felt heavy. Still, he never lost his calm nature. He continued shaping metal, unaware that life was slowly preparing a twist neither he nor Rufaro ever expected. Rufaro opened her fashion stall with loud excitement, believing it would become the next big thing in Cosimo Heights. She filled it with bright fabrics, bold designs, and high prices she thought would attract wealthy customers. But she never planned her budget, never tracked her expenses, and never learned how to manage workers. Within weeks, her stall became messy, customers complained, and suppliers demanded payment she couldn't make. Slowly, the business fell apart. Instead of admitting her mistakes, she looked for someone to blame, and the easiest target was the brother she had always belittled. One afternoon, when neighbors asked why her stall had closed, Rufaro spoke loudly, making sure everyone heard. She said Tawanda never supported her because he didn't think big like rich people. Her tone was sharp, her eyes full of frustration, and her words spread quickly through the area. People whispered, wondering how her brother was responsible, but Rufaro didn't care. She just needed someone to attack, and Tawanda was too gentle to fight back. Not long after, the family gathered for a small celebration, and Rufaro used the moment to embarrass him again. She stood in front of relatives and spoke as if she were giving a speech. She called him a charity case with useless dreams, claiming his artistic lifestyle would never amount to anything. The room went quiet. Some family members shifted uncomfortably, others stared at their plates, but no one said a word. Tawanda sat there with his hands folded, trying to stay composed while her insults cut deep. His chest tightened, but he kept a calm expression. He refused to let anger make him like her. He wanted to defend himself, to explain that dreams don't grow overnight, that passion has value even when the world doesn't see it. But he stayed quiet, because arguing would only add fire to her bitterness. Still, inside, the hurt was heavy. He wondered why his kindness made him so easy to target, and why his silence was taken as weakness. Even after the gathering ended, her voice echoed in his mind, replaying every harsh word. Yet Tawanda walked home without letting his spirit break. He had learned to turn pain into strength the same way he shaped rusted metal into art. What Rufaro didn't know was that life was about to shift in a way that would challenge everything she believed about him, and everything he believed about himself. A big cultural festival was announced in Cosimo Heights, and the whole city buzzed with excitement. It wasn't just a local event. It was a national art showcase with important buyers coming from many African countries. Posters were everywhere, calling artists to show their work. Tawanda saw one of those posters while walking home from the scrapyard. For a long moment he just stared at it, feeling something spark inside him. He had never entered any competition before, but this time he felt a quiet push in his heart. Maybe this was his chance to prove that his slow work and silent passion meant something. He spent days choosing which pieces to present. Finally, he selected 3 sculptures he had built from old car parts. Pieces he had shaped with patience. Pieces he had made when the world felt heavy. Each one carried a part of his soul. He polished every curve, checked every weld, and late at night he whispered to himself that maybe, just maybe, someone out there would understand his art. When he arrived at the festival, other artists stared at him, wondering why he brought broken metal instead of shiny displays. Some even laughed quietly. But Tawanda ignored the whispers. He set up his sculptures on a simple wooden table, wiped sweat from his brow, and stepped back. Under the bright lights, the twisted metal looked powerful and alive. When the judges arrived, their expressions changed instantly. They leaned closer, touched the cold surfaces, and whispered to each other with excitement. They had never seen scrap turned into something so emotional and detailed. Buyers gathered as well, pointing, taking photos, asking questions. Tawanda stood there stunned, trying to believe that all the attention was real. His heart thumped like a drum as the judges returned with their final decision. They announced his name as the winner, and the entire hall erupted in applause. Tawanda felt tears forming, but he blinked them away, smiling shyly. He received a big cash prize, more money than he had ever held in his life, but something even bigger happened. Several buyers approached him, offering long-term deals, wanting more sculptures, wanting to showcase his work in galleries across different countries. In that moment his quiet world changed. The same hands Rufaro once mocked were now being praised. The same metal she called useless was now his doorway to a future he never imagined. Tawanda walked out of the festival with his prize, his contracts, and a heart full of gratitude, knowing destiny had finally opened its arms to him. Tawanda used his prize money wisely. Instead of celebrating loudly or buying flashy things, he rented a small warehouse on the edge of Kisumu Heights and turned it into his workshop. He named it Murphy Steel Creations, a name that made him smile every time he said it. He wanted the place to be more than a business. He wanted it to be a space where young people could learn skills that would change their lives. So he walked through the neighborhoods, talking to unemployed welders and boys who spent their days sitting outside shops with nothing to do. He invited them in, gave them gloves and masks, and promised to teach them everything he knew. The workshop soon came alive with the sound of grinders and sparks flying across the room. Tawanda trained each person patiently, guiding their hands, showing them how to shape metal with care instead of force. He never raised his voice. He encouraged them when they made mistakes and celebrated their small improvements. Over time the team grew confident and the workshop grew busy. Orders increased from galleries, hotels, and even offices that wanted unique art pieces. Tawanda didn't brag about his growing success, but people noticed him. Business owners in the district respected his honesty and calm spirit. They admired how he created opportunities for others instead of keeping success to himself. While Tawanda's life slowly rose, Rufaro's situation went in the opposite direction. After her stall failed, she tried to restart it with borrowed money, but nothing worked. Customers didn't return. Suppliers demanded payment, and her savings disappeared faster than she expected. Bills gathered on her table like a mountain she couldn't climb. She ignored calls from lenders at first, but soon she couldn't avoid them. Her confidence faded, her voice lost its sharpness, and her proud smile disappeared. She watched Tawanda's workshop from a distance sometimes, feeling a mix of jealousy and regret. She remembered how she once mocked him, but now she struggled just to pay for food. Eventually, her stall closed for good. She felt ashamed walking past the empty structure that once held her dreams. Each failure made her chest heavier, and each night she lay awake wondering where she went wrong. Slowly, desperation took over. She had no money, no business, and no one willing to help. And the painful truth hit her hard. Her brother, the one she had insulted the most, was now the only person who might understand what she was going through. Rufaro spent several days walking back and forth in front of Tawanda's workshop, trying to gather the courage to step inside. Every time she heard the sound of metal tools, her heart tightened. She had spoken terrible words to him, and now she needed his help more than anyone else. Finally, one hot afternoon, she took a deep breath and pushed the door open. The workshop was warm, filled with sparks and the smell of steel. Young welders worked in the corner, laughing softly as they shaped new pieces. In the center of the room, Tawanda stood with his back turned, carefully repairing a damaged sculpture. His movements were slow and steady, full of quiet focus. Rufuro froze. She expected him to look up with anger or coldness. She expected harsh questions, maybe even mockery, the same way she once treated him. But when he turned around and saw her, his face remained calm. He didn't frown, didn't raise his voice. He simply wiped his hands and asked gently, "Are you okay?" That softness broke something inside her. The wall she had built around herself cracked completely. Before she could stop it, tears spilled from her eyes. She covered her face, ashamed and overwhelmed. Tawanda stepped closer, unsure if he should speak or wait. Rufuro finally found her voice, shaky and small. She told him she had failed because she always rushed, always wanted quick success, and never learned patience. Her decisions were loud, but her planning was weak. She admitted she had been wrong to insult him, wrong to judge his slow path, and wrong to think she was above him. Saying the words felt like lifting a heavy stone from her chest. Then, with trembling hands, she asked him for help. Not money for a small stall this time. She wanted guidance to build something real, something stable, something she could be proud of. She told him her dream was to start a proper fashion studio. A place where she could design, teach, and grow without repeating her old mistakes. She didn't demand it. She didn't pretend to deserve it. She simply begged, hoping her brother still had space in his heart for her. The workshop fell silent as she waited for his answer, scared that she had come too late. But the look in Tawanda's eyes showed something she never expected. Not revenge, not pride, but the same gentle strength he had carried all his life. Tawanda listened to Rufuro's trembling words without interrupting her. When she finished, she looked at the floor, expecting him to bring up every insult she had ever thrown at him. She waited for him to remind her how she had called him useless, how she had laughed at his art, how she had embarrassed him in front of the family. But he didn't mention any of it. He simply placed his tools aside and told her to sit. His calmness surprised her more than anything. He spoke softly, saying everyone makes mistakes and that learning from them mattered more than pretending to be perfect. His voice carried no anger, only understanding. While Rufuro wiped her tears, Tawanda walked to a metal locker in the corner of the workshop. Inside it was the money he had earned from the festival, and the savings from his growing business. He pulled out a thick envelope and returned to her. She stared at it, confused, until he said it was the money she needed to start again. Enough to open a real boutique with proper equipment, space, and freedom to grow. Rufuro felt her breath catch. She couldn't believe what she was hearing. The brother she once mocked for being broke was now offering her more help than anyone else ever had. Tawanda wasn't finished. He told her she could build the fashion studio she had always dreamed of, but with one important condition. She had to hire 2 young tailors from the community, people who needed a chance just like the welders he trained. He explained that success felt better when shared, and he wanted her business to lift others the same way his workshop had lifted boys who once had no direction. Rufuro nodded slowly, touched by his generosity and moved by his wisdom. She realized he wasn't just giving her money, he was giving her a new way to think, a new way to live. Her hands shook as she accepted the envelope. She kept staring at him, struggling to understand how he could be so forgiving. The same brother she had dismissed with cruel words was now giving her more support than she deserved. For the first time in a long while, she felt small, not in a painful way, but in a humbling one. She whispered thank you again and again, knowing nothing she said could match the kindness he had shown. Tawanda simply smiled, reminding her that family meant rising together, not stepping on each other. Rufuro worked day and night to build her new boutique, using the money Tawanda had given her with a grateful heart. She followed his advice this time. She planned carefully, saved every receipt, listened to customers, and treated her workers with respect. The 2 young tailors she hired brought fresh ideas and strong skills, and together they turned the small studio into a warm, creative space. Soon people in Kasumo Heights began talking about Rufuro's designs. Her colors were bold, her styles were unique, and her customer service felt sincere. Step by step, her shop gained loyal buyers, and before long, she was earning more than she ever had before. The girl who once chased quick success was finally tasting steady growth. As her boutique flourished, Rufaro changed too. The pride that once made her look down on others softened into humility. She no longer bragged loudly or mocked those with slower paths. Instead, she told anyone who would listen about the mistakes she once made. She knew her rise wasn't just her own doing. It came from the brother she had hurt so many times. And she wanted everyone to know that. When the boutique held its grand opening celebration after reaching its first major milestone, customers, neighbors, and business owners filled the room. Photographers clicked pictures, music played softly, and people admired the new collection displayed across the walls. Rufaro stood at the center, holding a microphone with trembling hands. She looked at Tawanda, who stood quietly near the back, his clothes still smelling faintly of metal and smoke from his workshop. With a deep breath, she began her speech. Her voice cracked as she confessed the words she once threw at him. She told the crowd, "I once said he would die broke. Instead, he became the reason I'm alive in business today." Gasps filled the room, followed by cheers and applause. People turned to look at Tawanda with admiration, impressed by his kindness and strength. Tawanda simply smiled, not because he wanted attention, but because he was proud of her growth. He felt happy knowing his compassion had turned a painful history into a beautiful new chapter. As the applause continued, Rufaro ended her speech with a message that touched every heart in the room. Sometimes the people who doubt you the most are the ones you'll end up rescuing. And in that moment, everyone understood what true forgiveness, patience, and love could create. Thanks for watching this story. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like the video, drop a comment, and subscribe to my channel for more powerful African tales. Your support helps the stories continue.